Hi, and welcome to the 5-Minute Mentor. I am your host, Tim J.M. Rohrer, and this is the show where we teach coaches and mentors how to help their students solve their own problems through a 5-step, 5-minute process. You may recall from our last episode that we've been talking about how to coach the reluctant student. So there are times when coaches or teachers end up with students or mentees on their team that they didn't choose or who didn't choose them. And this happens frequently for sports coaches, for example, when they are hired onto a team that's already existing, or if you're in business and territories change or teams change, and suddenly you find yourself with new members of the team. You don't know them, they don't know you, but now you're in a relationship in which you have to help them learn how to solve their own problems. And maybe they're not quite ready for that. So that is the reluctant student. So the original 5-step process, you'll see that it is to understand what the problem is, ask clarifying questions, and then ask coaching questions. Of the process for the reluctant student, you'll see that you still want to understand the problem. And instead of asking clarifying questions, the next step is to gain permission to ask coaching questions. So in our first example, last time around, we talked about my daughter, Julia, who I am teaching how to drive, and she doesn't really want to hear about it, mainly because she is a reluctant student. So we've been forced together, me being the primary teacher of her driving and her being the student who has to tolerate me. Now, I was having drinks with Sean from San Diego not long ago, and he said to me, "Hey, I watched your episode and I'm wondering, how's it possible that you have a reluctant student in your daughter? How could you not have a deep, trusting relationship with your own child?" It's a fair question, Sean. And I will say that at one point, Julia and I did have a deep, trusting, wonderful relationship in which she looked up to me as her dad. And she thought that everything I said was exactly right on, and she wanted to please me. And then something happened around about the time she turned 13 or 14, and all that changed. And I'm suggesting to you that maybe I wasn't the one that changed. So what can I say? I don't really know the answer, but I think it has something to do with teenagers. Am I right? So Julie and I are thrust into this relationship, and you may have been thrust into your own relationships with reluctant students. And the key to getting them to allow you to ask coaching questions that they're going to be open to is to gain permission. So one way we talked about last time to gain permission is to catch somebody doing something right. So I talked about how my daughter's left turns were terrific, and I gave her some praise for that. And then I asked her if she'd be open to learning a little bit more about how to do right turns better. You can use the same technique on your team as well, but I wanted to talk about another technique for gaining permission with the reluctant student. And that would be demonstrating an interest in them improving their performance. So that may seem really obvious, but when you are thrust into a new relationship with a student, one of the things you'll want to do early on is to ask them a lot of questions about what they're hoping to achieve. Ask them about what their professional objectives are, their professional goals. Why are you here? What is it you're trying to do? How can I help? When you do this, and then you actually demonstrate ways that you might help, and you give an effort for helping, what you're doing is you're gaining permission in future interactions to ask coaching questions. And as we've discussed several times before, asking coaching questions is going to be the key to having your student or your mentee grow. We'll talk more about that next time, but for now, that is the 5-Minute Mentor. If you want to reach out to me, you can do so on my website at timjmrohrer.com, or look me up on LinkedIn and send me a message. Until then, let's get after it.